welcome to your Thursday spooky time. Nice to see everybody. I'm so glad you're all here. A little break from the foodster. A little break, much needed. Take a look at the poll today. The poll is just a simple question. Have you heard of skinwalkers? Yes, no, or I think so. So please vote when you have a moment. I'm curious if anyone knows anything on the topic or if it's new to all of us. It was new to me. Looks like maybe about 3/4 have heard of skinwalkers. I've learned quite a bit over the last week or so. And thanks goes to Abriana Miller for suggesting the topic. Hey, Abriana. You looked in your bathroom with a black light? I would never do that. I'd have to have a real deep clean first, I think. New to you, FW11? Okay, yeah, it was new to me. I've heard the word before, but I really didn't know anything beyond that. So we are going to explore. So I'm glad that you're down for that. And if you were able to watch my first live stream from yesterday at the very end, we did discuss this a little bit, okay? Now, I started looking into things, okay? And I'm like, okay, let me get a thumbnail downloaded. Let me get some photos downloaded so that I can make a thumbnail for this stream. And I felt kind of odd looking at some of the photos, and I felt like I didn't really want to. But I'm like, well, you kind of have to for a thumbnail, right? But I had a strange feeling about it. And the more I learned about them and what tradition they come from, and a little bit of the history, I started to feel more and more uneasy about it. So, I did end up downloading a sketch, and it's a sketch of someone basically turning into a skinwalker. And I downloaded that. It was on my computer. I hadn't yet made the thumbnail. And went to sleep just like a couple nights ago. Woke up. I don't know if I was being told directly or what it was really, but I woke up saying, okay, and I turned over, found the file as quickly as possible, tried not to look at it, and I deleted it. So, I just, that happened. So, I feel like, and the Navajo do say, not to really even talk about them because that can attract them. Yeah, we don't want them to call them to us. Right. So, all right, so we will get started. I don't know if it was me that scared myself. I mean, I feel like I got a message very clearly. Very clearly. So, let's get started here. Oh, Abriana, please don't. No. It's not about you at all. Don't worry about anything at all. I was just doing my research, looking into it, due diligence, like, all right, So, let's get started. So I'm first going to show you, this is a channel that I have been watching for a little while. And it is Navajo Traditional Teachings, and the channel link is in the description. I think it's the very first link. So that's who we'll be looking at first, and he's going to discuss, he's an elder in the Navajo, would I say community? I don't know if I want to say community, but in the Navajo tribe? I don't know if that's correct either. But this video is a little bit older, but it has really everything that we need to know to get started in, or maybe tradition, to get started on the topic. So his name is Wally Brown. Nation or tribe? Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, here we go.
One of the reasons where our people did the when individuals of any background, they don't have to be Navajo, they can be other tribes or even white people or black people, when they begin to ask about the ways of the Diné in skinwalkers and other witchcraft and the black arts and that, we get suspicious of anyone, because if you begin to learn just a little bit, that interest in learning will grow, and eventually you will be recruited by the evil one, and you will help the demons and that to spread the things that are wrong, and you will be in a position to cast evil spells and to say evil prayers and to say evil things against people, to do ugly things to society and to the people that we love around us. That's why the net don't like to share that type of information with anyone.
And that makes perfect sense to me. It really does. You know, sometimes people get fascinated with a topic and, you know, it can make things worse. Please, at any time, if any volume is too high or too low, you can let me know at any time. No need to be shy about that. So I'm just going to interrupt him for a moment. I think that this might be either an introduction or a blessing prayer before we begin to talk about it. But you can see there's like a status bar at the bottom. So when that gets to the end, that's when he'll start speaking English.
Atakash. Etat eidi got egi ego ya hedi be poholni. Aro totikat ye nantla. Aro kodaro le ba ko nit ba ko winten do le tenden kit an ti dat is kad na hado shi ye hiket nadnes. Ako ya heb eidi bet nikle. Wat ego she be nant kenigi be kata huid net do. In the traditional teachings of our people, the teachings about demons and the evil one, and how they are able to operate among us as the five-fingered being. The evil one is the actual person or being that is in charge of all of the other evil beings, and those are the demons. And the evil one actually has his origin as known as the Black Yei or Yeishin, and his primary goal is to be an obstacle, to be an opposition or the adversary to the things that are good, that are made good by the holy people and given to us. And he does everything in his power to make sure that he has some way perverted their effort. And the demons are the ones that help him. And they are not physical in any way beings, but they do have influence over so many of the things that are around us in a physical setting. And they can do things that are of the supernatural nature and actually have an effect on us as the five-fingered being. Is what we are told. And the demons actually have about 4 different names that we apply to them as the way that they have power. And the witchcraft is one of them. And Atakash is another one. Ante is another one. There's a 4th one that I don't like to give a name to. And that is more of a physical type of an attack on the human body. If you are weak in a spiritual way, or an emotional way, or in a mental way, when those are combined, they can attack you. And it is that what they can inflict upon you is actually physical illnesses, and that can deteriorate your body to where it's almost nothing. And so those are the type of powers that they actually have. But in modern times, and that the influence on that the evil ones have, they take any type of form. They come in all sizes and shapes, either as physical five-fingered beings or even material type of things to distract us. And that is the main thing, is the adversary is always making the effort to distract us from the things that are right and good. And so it is that we have, in our own traditional teaching, what we have is the skinwalker. The skinwalkers are actually, they are actual beings or people, the five-fingered being that have great knowledge of the dark side. And they are able to do the flat line and to actually be between here and the next world and in spirit form and able to do things to get around and do the evil that they can do. And that is very evil in so many ways. And so those are the ones that we call Yenal Doshi. And I don't like to talk about it, and the Net don't like to talk about it. It is that they have control over so many things in the world today. The demonic influence on that is available, or we have, and it is always for distraction. And one of the main things that they attack in our present world and among our Dene is the family. The families are also always under some type of influence by the evil one and demonic forces. And so we have their efforts to make our families not stable, not united. And it is that they have that influence. And so it destroys the family. Keh is the most important thing among the ne. Keh hatninigi. And that is that our families are the most important things to us as an individual to ne. Keh. That not only means our mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters, our aunts and uncles, grandfathers and grandmothers, in our own individual family unit, but it also means the kinship families. Is the clan relationships and that we have. That's how far this is family unit goes among our people. The nene tlini is the way that we are told is anybody that recognizes themselves as a person that had an existence before coming to this earth and a person that is now on the surface of Mother Earth who recognizes themselves as a five-fingered being and as a child of the holy people. But the is what we are told, and even our songs and our prayers and that explain that to us. And so the idea that we have an adversary and all of the things that we have to experience in life, we always have a choice to follow the adversary or to follow the holy people. And the holy people always have a way for us to deal with these problems. Among our Dene, we have protection songs, we have protection prayers, Ajasan, Ajatotan. Those are the things that we can have other people perform for us. But on our own, we can have our own protection prayer, we can have our own protection song. But those are the things that we can make for ourselves. And it is that we establish it actually by prayer. When you have prayers, you can have those songs, you can have those protection songs and protection prayers and protection way. And sometimes people may wear the jewelry that protects them. And they also can have herbs, or they might have tadatin, or inside of their corn pollen pouch, they might carry certain things that are there to protect them from the evil one. Is what we are told, that he does not take any sides as far as to say that he never will take the good side. He will always pick the evil side and try to influence us. And so there are many things in that are very dangerous to us. Things are invented for good purposes, and they will pervert those good purposes and make them useful for evil intent. There's a lot of technology today that's available to our young people, and some of that is not very good at all. It will control everything that they do and what they think and what they say, and even the clothes they wear, the food they eat, and the things that they will watch as far as in their environment. And that's how much power the evil one has. Is that what we are told, and that means that he has great influence and great powers, and we think that they are normal, but they are not. And so there's such things as infatuation with aliens, infatuation with Bigfoot. These things are all distractions, and people think that sometimes they are cute cartoon characters and cartoon things, but it is that they are actually real, but they are made real by the power of the evil one and the influence that he has, and the way that the demons are able to carry these distractions out. And it's very powerful and it's very real. And I don't like to give any more credit to it than that, but just be aware. And that's what they tell us in the traditional way. Observe and watch and learn. And then when you learn it, then you understand it and you learn how to avoid it. And be sure and be able to have your own protection song, your own protection prayer, and carry things that on you that remind you that you are the child of holy people and that they will protect you. And if you depend on him. And those are the things that we are told.
So, what are your thoughts on that? The evil one. So everyone has different beliefs, of course, and different traditions may have different names for different things. But I like how he said at the end that it's our fascination with these things that, it draws us away from the positive things that maybe we should be focusing on, and maybe possibly gives those evil things strength by devoting energy to them, thinking about them, becoming fascinated about them. What do you guys think about that? The evil one wears different masks, true. Like we give it power to hold over us by your own doing. Yeah. Pause on Crisco Window says, and to think they were called savages at one time. They are very aware of their surroundings. More so than the regular average Joe, for sure, I think. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Lost Soul says that's definitely true about giving the energy. It makes them stronger. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So next we are going to another member of the Navajo Nation. This channel is also linked in the description. And this is Sean Clen Shadow Productions. And he's a younger guy, okay? But this is the video that I first really learned about skinwalkers and really made me second guess whether we should even talk about it. So his video is titled, we're going to watch the whole thing. It's only 17 minutes, but Truth of Skinwalkers, Discovering Ancient Skins. Viewer discretion advised. So be advised. Okay. Here we go.
Able to see at the very end.
Oops. Start at the beginning.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Sean Clen Shadow Productions. Now, I'm here to give you more stories of the Yanagloshi. I know you're not supposed to talk about it, but
So that is the Navajo language word for skinwalker, if you didn't know.
You guys want more, and I'm here to give you more. I have lots of stories of my interactions in my time with my brother, the guardian of the Navajo Nation, looking and going after these dark entities. Now this one's going to be very, very, very creepy. So this story begins out with a phone call. This was during a time when my brother and I would travel around to the Navajo Nation when people were dealing with a lot of darker entities in the Navajo Nation. So this phone call was somebody that was requesting help. They apparently had an elder that passed away, and they had a shack where they used to keep their belongings. And they would feel dark energies, they would feel evil things inside of there, but they never went in there just for that fear of those things being inside of there. And so they would try to get normal medicine men that would do the beauty way Hojonja ceremonies, and they said that what was ever in there, they can't go and deal with that because that's not their speciality. It was too dark. They were too afraid to kind of go in there. So they heard of my brother. They gave my brother a call and they said, "Can you deal with this?" And he said, "Yes, we can." So myself, my brother, my uncle, we traveled over to Coppermine, Arizona. And this is where this story takes place. And with this, there were some other things that were kind of odd about the location. So when you go and do a run ceremony, whenever you go out to these locations to kind of go against darkness, you always have to look at your surroundings. What's around you? What could be the cause of these darker entities coming around? And what was very interesting about this location was the cliff sides, the mountain sides that were not too far away. I would have to say about a couple miles north of there. There was a little mesa canyon cliffside that was right there. So during the day, we went out toward that way, and the homeowners of that location said they grew up with a lot of Yanagloshis or skinwalkers in the area. They would always kind of be up in that cliffside over there. And we're just like, I wonder what's over there. So during the day, we traveled over there, and what we've come to find out is there are certain locations on the Navajo Nation, certain canyons you can go to where you're given a choice on your path of becoming a holy person, a medicinal person. You go to these canyons. If you go one direction, you learn the good way. You learn the good medicine and songs and ceremonies. Or if you go the other way, you learn evil, you learn darkness, and you learn how to do those evil things. Sure enough, that canyon side that's right there is one of those places. So with us knowing who we are head to toe from our ancestry, all 13 directions around us, we were able to, and the teachings that we learned, we were able to go through the dark side to see if anything recently was there, any recent things that have happened during that time. And this is where it gets kind of creepy, because I've always heard stories about what happens in those dark tunnels, or dark canyons, I should say. And when we were walking through there, man, it was just like a blanket of darkness. It was midday, but you could just feel the draining energy of your good thoughts, your good memories just kind of seep out of your body into the rock face itself. And when you're walking through there, we were able to see at the very end kind of like a little dome area where the water carved out a perfect circular cave. And in there were bones. There were cattle bones, horse bones, and sheep bones. And I'd have to say, but I think unfortunately there were human bones inside of there as well. So we're just like, okay, so there are human remains in here too. So with that, we saw some markings and some other distinct things that I'm not going to go into, unfortunately, but you could tell it was active. So this was one of those places where the Yanagloshis would do their initiations into becoming a skinwalker and doing their ceremonies, what they need to do. So we're just like, okay, our patient is just a mile south of here, which would understandably make him an easy target. So we return back to the home, and we're just like, we're going to wait for nightfall to be able to go into that shack and see what's going on. And so nightfall comes, we get ready, we get our weapons, we get everything ready, because with that being so close, that would mean that if we start to disturb with any evil or darkness that's there, some things they may not want us to see. They may want to keep secret. There's a reason why there's, I guess you can say, a barrier over that little shack. They might be protecting something in there. And this would have been when I was 16, 17 years old. So a couple years after the Skinwalker Tunnel incident. If you haven't seen that, I got that video. I'll put it right here as well. Go check that out. That's going to be my first time seeing Skinwalker tunnels. But going back to the story, I was very young still. Very, very kind of immature. So we went to the shack. It would have to have been like 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. Sun was already down, and there were clouds over us. So we couldn't see the moon. We couldn't see the stars. It was just dark. So we pull up our vehicles in front of the shack and we turn on our headlights and we look in there. And my brother and my uncle, they came up to me and they told me, wait outside. Because you're still young, because you're not as experienced as us in this, whatever could be in there could get you sick. So just wait until you get your trainings up a little bit more, then you'll be able to go inside of these things. So I said, okay. I didn't argue, I understood what dangers lay inside. So I waited outside. They said, make sure nothing comes running in at us from behind us to try to stop us from what we're doing. So I remember I was standing there, and what was a disadvantage to me was because the vehicles all had their headlights on me, so I couldn't really see past that. So if something were to come running out at me, then a Yanagloshi would come running at me, I would only have a split second to be able to respond, to be able to stop it from going in there. And that made me tense. It was, I would have to say it was around summertime, so it wasn't cold, but I remember just gripping my sword tightly to make sure that nothing was able to make its way to them. They relied on me. They put their trust in me to be able to stop whatever goes in there. And so my brother told me what happened afterwards, what they did inside there. So this is what happened. So they opened the door to the shack, and inside were 3 chests. And if you can imagine, these chests were, I would have to say, very vintage in their look. All 3 of them were stacked up. And when they opened that door, there was a kind of a rotten smell to the whole place, a smell of death. So when they opened that door, they went to the chests above and they were like, okay, the contents of the evil items should be inside these chests. So they get the first chest and they open it up, and there's just a bunch of clothes, little knickknacks here and there, nothing too evil, nothing too dark. And so they grab that chest, they move it out of the way, and they make their way to the second chest. And me standing outside, I can kind of hear them. They're like, okay, nothing's in here, let's open up the second one. So when they opened up the second one, that's when it got scary. Was because when they opened up that second chest, you heard a woman scream. And what's wild about it is the only contents inside of that chest were 4 stones, 4 sacred stones, and a piece of bone, and a picture as well. So inside of that chest, those stones are very sacred to our tribe, but also including a bone inside of there represents a darkness of the twisted representation of our holy stones and our holy objects. And with that picture that was inside of there was a picture of a woman inside of that as well. So we were thinking that, like, dang, was her spirit kept in that box this whole time? Was she trying to find her way out? So my brother and my uncle, they use buckhide gloves, and they grab the items and they put it inside of a bag. So they said, okay, so let's go ahead and move to the last chest. So when they made their way to the last chest, I remember hearing a gasp from my uncle and my brother. They're like, what is that? What is that? And I could just feel out in the darkness, I could feel eyes looking at me. You could see or feel, people looking at you. And I was just like, this isn't good. So I told them, I was like, hey, there's people out here. Just be ready. And they said, okay. So what was inside that last chest was the regalia of a Yanagloshi. They gathered up the regalia and they took it back to the home, outside of the home. Never bring evil things in your home. They took it outside of the home and they started a fire. And this is when my brother showed me the regalia. He showed me the buckhide skin rolled out, and he flipped it over, and on the inside of the skin were markings. There was blood markings, ash markings, and burn marks inside of there that represent a lot of the skinwalker signage, language, and symbols that they use to be able to shapeshift into these evil things. And also attached with those things were 2 pairs of antlers. And on these antlers was very interesting because they had blood. It was 4 blood drops on there. And each of those blood drops on the antlers represents somebody that you've killed. So this person, in their time of being a skinwalker, had killed 4 people.
It's kind of like the teardrops, for gang members. It represents a person killed.
And I remember just being near that regalia, I had to vomit. I had to throw up because it was just had a weird smell to it, and just the energy off of it was very disorienting. So my brother said, okay, need to start a fire. What we need to do is we are going to burn these items and these things, and the ceremony that we're going to be doing is calling upon the spirit of the buck that was killed. And unfortunately, when you kill something for evil like that, the buck has its sacred stories, has its protections as well for doing holy things. But when the buck was killed for these evil acts, it's not happy. Its soul is not happy. So when you were able to put the stuff in the fire, you do the ceremony, you do the songs, you're able to summon the spirit of the buck and send it back to whoever killed it to do whatever it needs to do. So my brother, he told me, be ready, because those things that are out there are going to want to stop what we're doing. They don't want that spirit to run free. They don't want that spirit to go back at them. So they're going to do everything in their power to try to stop us. I said, okay. So my brother sat by the fire. He did the ceremony of having the skin go to the fire. And I remember when he was singing, doing his songs, I was vigilant. I was looking around. And in this house, they had a porch light that was pretty good, but it only went a certain distance to where you can kind of see the outline of how far the light reached. And I remember looking over to my left, and I remember seeing a dark shadow at the edge of that light, kind of just walking back and forth. Sure enough, I look to my right, and I see it again, another one, kind of just walking at the edge of the light like that, going back and forth. I whistled to my uncle, who was on the other side. He's like, I see him. So we pull out our swords and we stand guard for my brother to make sure nothing happens. And they got close, and as my brother was beginning to finish up the ceremony, you can hear them. They blow their whistles. They start doing their war whoops, and they were. I feel like they were about to head straight for us, make a beeline for us. But as my brother grew closer to this, releasing that spirit, you see them run. You see them take off back toward the cliff where they came from. And with that, they understood and they knew the ceremony that he was doing, and they knew that spirit was gonna come out of the buckskin. So when my brother finished up the ceremony, that spirit went out. And when that spirit went out, way at the distance at the cliffside, you hear a scream right afterwards. So I guess you could say the buck got his revenge for its misuse of its body and its unholy ways and unholy use of it as well.
Wow.
So this right here, afterwards, we ended up making our way back home, dead tired, up all night doing that. And there were some other things that we did at the time, but I can't go into it because it's fairly dark, the things that we encountered out there. But maybe if you guys want to hear more, I can go into more detail about it. But I just kind of want to take this time to be able to thank you guys so much for watching. That first Skinwalker video I did is doing very well. There's a lot of new subscribers, new followers, and a very, very, very positive feedback that I'm getting from you guys for these stories and this knowledge that I have from my experiences. And I just want to say thank you guys so much, for watching, for sharing, for subscribing. And there's going to be more content on the way. So if you guys want to go follow me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I have the link down in the description. I post what I'm doing, any teasers for any upcoming episodes that I have. So if you guys want to go follow me there. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Aho, and I'll go on it.
All right, so his link is in the description also. Yeah, so he did mention a video, the tunnel, surviving ancient skinwalkers in the tunnels. But first, I think what I had queued up next, I think this is really actually interesting because it's very, it applies to like a lot of things that are happening now, like on YouTube, where people have channels that are, oh, let's go ghost hunting, thinking it's just like, oh, it's just like, let's make something go bump in the night and it'll be scary and we'll get some views for it kind of thing, So he addresses that from his perspective and what he thinks of that. It's very interesting. So the title of this one is Paranormal Investigating Needs to Change, Indigenous Perspective for Spiritual Harmony. This one's really good. I listened to this earlier today.
Things that you have to understand about the paranormal world before you call yourself a paranormal investigator. Ahonyat, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sean Clin's Shadow Productions. Now this one's going to be an episode where I need to bring to light a lot of things that a lot of people get wrong about the paranormal world as far as for like ghost hunting and everything like that. So this has been irking me for a long time, ever since I was a little kid, and all these ghost hunting shows and these YouTubers that go around to these locations miss a lot and just don't really frankly understand what's going on. Now I understand that there's a lot of mystery to a lot of you people out there as far as for what the spiritual world is, ghosts, and just paranormal in general. There's a lot of questions out there for a lot of you people out there, and that's just something that us indigenous people, and I'm sure a lot of people around the world, as far as for different religions, already know what entails the spiritual world. Now, we used to have a ghost hunting show called Unearthing the Supernatural that I was a part of, that we would go to a lot of these locations, and whenever we would investigate, we would always use our teachings and knowledge and ceremonies that we learned for decades. And going on to it is every single investigation was in a sense a ceremony. We always went into a location to try to understand the spirits, to try to help them if they ever needed it, and to try to get rid of any darkness or evil that are in those locations. Now, that's something that right there is that understanding of what is your purpose for investigating or ghost hunting. Are you there because you're curious? Are you there for trying to get views? Are you there to just mess around and just kind of be a reference avatar here? You going around making noise, don't know what to do, kind of thing. So that's something that is it needs to be said, because it's sad when I see a lot of these paranormal investigator groups or these paranormal people go into these locations and they mess with spirits, they play with spirits, and it's just like a lot of them need help. And this is where I'm going to be going into this story to kind of give you a little frame of mindset of what I'm talking about. So picture you're an elderly person, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you out there have seen your loved ones get up there in age and they're ready to pass on into the next world. Now, for those of you out there, I'm pretty sure you've seen your elders start to see their mother, their father, their grandmother, or somebody that they loved who has already passed on. Now, when that happens, they're not delusional. They're not losing their mind or anything. That right there is their spirits, their family members coming there because they know it's their loved one's time to pass on to the next world. So they're getting their spirit ready. They're getting their body ready to go on into that next world. Now, because their time was kind of, I guess you can say, scheduled, their passing on of natural causes, Now, if you have somebody who passes away of unnatural causes, say they die of a car crash, and their spirits and their family members in the heavens didn't know that they passed on or anything like that, that's where you get lost spirits, or someone gets killed or something like that. And a movie I like to really reference is the movie Ghosts. Really great movie. Oh, so good. Made me cry. But that's a good example of, you pass away of an untimely death. So when you pass away of your untimely death, you're looking at your body, you're kind of freaking out, you don't know what's going on, you don't know what to do. And inside of the spiritual world, there's lots of dangers out there for lost souls. There could be evil beings that are out there. There could be soul merchants that take your soul and sell you onto the markets or into the slave trades. Or there's also beings out there called soul eaters that go around feasting on lost souls to make sure like the spiritual world doesn't get too cluttered. Now, imagine you're that spirit that died in that car crash. You're looking around, you're looking down the street, and you see a beast. You see an ungodly looking monster start running towards you because it picked up your scent, and you freak out and you run to the nearest house that's close by. Now, for some reason, that spiritual being, that soul eater, cannot go into that house because that home, say, will have like a cross or some other protections, whatever religion that they have, and that soul eater cannot go inside of that house. Now, you're in there, you're just like, okay, this is a safe haven. I think I'm just going to stick here and just hide out here until everything kind of blows over. And that's where you kind of get a lot of your hauntings, is you have these lost spirits that kind of wander in your home, or you have a family member who passed away and is in the home who kind of had an untimely death, and they're there in the home kind of just doing a normal haunting and everything. So that's where something that a lot of people kind of get wrong is, that's something that kind of really irks me, is other locations too. We even went to a place called the Bullion Plaza in Arizona, and that was an old residential school. Now, this school was a school for a lot of indigenous kids and Mexican kids back in the day as well. So, and unfortunately, this location did have some kids that died there. And there's a lot of boarding schools out there. I'll probably get into another video about it in the future. But when we went there, we were investigating, and we made contact with some kids. And we were doing a ceremony for a bear spirit. I remember seeing and looking at my brother, and I remember seeing his jacket get pulled by a little bit by his leg. And I was holding an Ovilus 5, and it said children. And this is where it gets kind of sad, is because, you see these kids, you see these, innocent spirits that were taken from their home, and who essentially died, and their spirits and their family never knew where they went.
Let's go.
It really kind of irks me when you see these people go to these locations and these places, and they have these spirits calling for help. They need help to go into the next world or something, as far as for a form of communication, or they're being held there by a dark evil being. And you see these kids come in, with their equipment and their devices, and they make things light up, and they're like, oh my God, freaking out. But these spirits are pleading for help. These spirits need, somebody to listen to them, to hear their story, to get them on the right path. But they just leave. And when you go to these locations, you go to these places, a lot of times the spirits will know your intentions of what you're doing. And that's something that, everybody out there in some form of sense knows that there's a ghost, there's spirits and everything that are out there in the paranormal world. And it's just like, all right, what's the next step? We understand and we know that there's paranormal beings out there. Us indigenous people know that, and a lot of other people around the world know that as well, whatever religion you follow. And it's just like, okay, so one thing that us indigenous people always did is we always were the balance keepers of the land and the spiritual world. I guess you could say we're the bridge between that. We're the caretakers and of the land and the spirits as well. And we try to help those beings out as much as we can. And that's something that needs to be done as far as for, these paranormal groups. And I've known I know of a lot of paranormal groups. I know of a lot of individuals in the paranormal community. I guess you can say they help spirits and they understand that. And it's just a lot of the newer kind of generations as far as for the paranormal investigating goes. I'm sounding like an elder here now, but but my the knowledge that we have spans generations, and we see it every single day. And it's just like a lot of these people it's their first time interacting with spirits, or it's their first time like validating that they know that spirits are there. And it's just like, come on, man, they've always been here. But, it's what's the next step? How can we help these spirits? And there's also a lot of times where I see paranormal groups or people that claim to be that they're mediums, but they're not. And sometimes that we see that, going back to that story of, that person that was hiding in that house because there was a soul eater outside waiting to eat them. And, you have this person who does like mass cleansings of buildings and everything, and shoos and banishes out that spirit and sends it out to the soul eater for them to get eaten, because they didn't have that knowledge of pretty much investigating to know what the situation is. What spirits are you dealing with? Do they need help? Are they happy and content with being in the location they're at? Or are there darker beings that are there? And that's something that that's why this elders always said, don't be going around messing with these things. Don't be going around messing with ghosts or spirits or anything like that, because of those very reasons right there. If you don't know what you're doing and you're going out there to these places and doing these things, you can, in a sense, harming the spirits that are there, or harm yourself as well. Because these demons, if you don't know what you're doing, they could follow you home, or they themselves could brand you and mark you for when your time comes, they come and claim your spirit. So that's something that you have to be careful. And that's something that I see a lot of recklessness out there, of these younger generations going out there and investigating, and they just go there for views. They go there for this, they go there for that. And it takes them hours, if not days, for sometimes to get communication and evidence. But the reason is because the spirits know your intention and why you're there. The spirits know that you're not there to help them. The spirits know that you're just there for views and to make money off of them. So that's why, whenever we would go investigate, we would always go with the intention of trying to help the spirits through a ceremony. And we actually can, because they would see our markings, our tattoos and everything, and they see our spirit of who we are and the upbringing that we had going through all these ceremonies and learning the ways that we have. Spirits can see those markings on you. They can see that all those, your past, present, future, your thoughts, everything. They can see all that inside of you. So whenever we would go investigate, things would happen immediately, and we've even collabed with people and things would happen immediately. And they're like, there's no way things happen that quick for you guys. It takes us hours to do this and that. It's just like, well, what's your intention then? Why does it take you so long for you to get evidence, to be able to communicate with spirits? Why is it so hard for you? So that right there, you're kind of telling on yourself, like, the spirits don't want to talk to you because you're not there to help them. You're just there to exploit them. And imagine being a lost spirit who cannot contact their family, cannot talk with their loved ones. And, just how heartbreaking it will be to just have some people who go in to investigate these locations and try to talk to you. It's like, oh, they hear me, they understand, they can hear me. Maybe they can help me get out of here to see my family again. And they don't, so it's always heartbreaking. And when we did that ceremony for those kids at the residential school, it was sad, man, because I almost started crying, because those kids don't deserve that, the little ones. And through there, we did that ceremony, and my brother, in a sense, he did a ceremony to where he opened up a threshold, or the gateway, to be able to go into the next world, whatever religion you follow. And it said that on the ovulus, it said threshold. And we sent those kids back to their families, and that's what it's all about right there. And to be able to help spirits to bring balance back to locations, or balance back to lands. And sometimes there's darker beings that are there that are holding those spirits hostage. And I've seen a lot of times too where people will be like, in the name of so and so, you are now free from this building and you can go to the next world or whatever. But they can't go because those darker beings literally have them chained to the ground to where they can't leave. So in those senses, in those times, you have to push away those darker beings, kill them, get rid of them, and then break those chains to where those spirits can be freed. And that's just something that a lot of people just don't understand about the spiritual world. Is it's that complex. It's not just a wisp of a ghost just walking by and everything. They don't have emotions. They don't have this, they don't have a soul anymore. It's just a memory replaying. There's sometimes that happens, but a lot of times it's not. And you also run into spirits where they're happy and content with where they are. A good example of that is Vulture City Ghost Mine near Wickenburg, Arizona. I used to do ghost tours over there, so that location is where a lot of spirits are happy and content with where they are. They like those locations because it was their home, and they don't want to leave, and they're still happy there. They have a lot of people that come and interact with them, have a good time and everything. But when I see those episodes or those videos on YouTube where people go to these places and they're like, help me, help me, help me, and there's a dark entity and they just run away. That's what breaks my heart, is like, that's somebody's mother. That's somebody's about my
Yeah, so he talks about he's going to make a video about his tech issues. Yeah. We've all been there, I think. Sean Clen. Yeah. So, if you're not here for the topic, if you're here because you're bored and you just, I would appreciate if you just find another chat for now. I'm glad to do content that's not about the girls, but it is still mostly going to be Gore World, who wants to watch or doesn't want to watch or just needs to place to hang out. And we're going to have the same people who attend these as well, I guess. But, I just like to get off of the girls for a little while. So if you're just here to distract or to run your mouth, there's other places to do that. I appreciate it. Also, be sure to check out the poll on the community tab today. Thank you, Overfear. Thank you, Maeve. On the community tab, there is a poll, and it's a very simple question. Are most Muslims terrorists? And it's a yes or no. And I just like to see, because it's anonymous, you just have to click yes or no. No one knows who you are. I don't see who votes or anything. But it is interesting. I think it's because I've been seeing still a lot of talk, and I think that maybe a lot of people aren't aware of how many bigots surround us. There truly are. So I've made the chat subscribe. You have to be subscribed for 20 minutes today for a reason. And it gets a little tiring. So because you're not sure if all Muslims are or most Muslims are terrorists, well, then that's your opinion. I know what the answer is already. I know that there are definitely some who do feel that. But I think it's more of the community that doesn't realize how many bigots are around us. So, hey, Scarletter, yeah. I don't even, yeah. Well, no, not all, but the question is, are most Muslims terrorists? That's the question. So, all right. So I know people will come in here because I am Muslim and, just try to do whatever. Because I'm not talking about Chantal, but they still have, I'm just saying, I've seen a lot today, just today alone. And not having Chantal as an excuse to, talk crap about me, they'll find something else. Okay. So, but coming in to detract from today's topic is not appreciated, and you are seen. You are seen. Okay. Next, so this is the tunnel one. This is when he was talking about the tunnels, okay? That's what this one is.
You guys asked for more, and I'm here to give you more. Some people have commented they want to hear a couple more Yanagloshi stories that I have. I will tell you this first story is going to be my first mission I ever had with a guardian. Oh, not everybody. Welcome to another episode of Shanklan Shadow Productions. You guys have asked, and you shall receive. You wanted some more Skinwalker Yanagloshi stories, and I'm here to give it to you. It's kind of a tough subject to talk about because you're not really supposed to talk about Skinwalkers and Yanagloshis, but I'm here to give you guys the truth. I'm here to give you guys the knowledge that I know. So this first story I'm going to be telling you, I'm going to be taking you back 12 years ago. This is my very first mission I went on with my brother Hiro and my uncle Naurion to be able to kind of do a scouting recon mission over in Tuanjone. And that's where we're originally from and where the Guardians train. So over there, we were visiting one of our relatives at their Hogan, and we were driving back and we noticed something that was kind of off with the whole area and the land. So when we were driving down the dirt road, a lot of times the old people used to build their fences with tree trunks, tree branches, and they would line barbed wire around it to be able to put a barrier around their crops or their cattle or their sheep to be able to make sure they don't wander off or animals get into their crops. So there was an old, over there specifically, it was used for farming. So there was a plot of land that was used for farming a long time ago from our ancestors. And on one of the posts, there was a can on top of the branch. Now, we've gone up and down that road so many times, and we've always kind of just seen it, but then that can was never there. So we're just like, hey, let's pull off. Let's go check out what this is real quick. So me being 15 years old, I was kind of nervous to be able to see, what's going on. This is my first mission. My brother has trained me. He's kind of taught me and told me stories about the Yanagloshis itself. And this is broad daylight. So we walked across, I would have to say like a couple 100 yards away from the road. And we make it to that post where the can is. We take off the can and we kind of look around because that can was put there for a reason, whether it be for attention for us, whether the spirits put it there to let us know that, hey, there's something over here, or it's used for the Yanagloshis in the local area to say, hey, this is a marker right here. If you need to hide out, this is where you need to go. They kind of use that. They would put cans on, shrub bushes or other types of different markings that you would just normally say, oh, that's just trash. But they've come to use as just like, oh, something you would shrug off is actually has meaning to some of these beings. Now, when we looked around that post right there, we kind of went about, like I would say, like 100, 200 feet radius around it. My brother pointed out something. He said, hey, guys, come over here. Come look at this. So came over there, and this is kind of where it scared me. I looked on the ground and there was a hole that was in the ground. I would have to say it was around 7 feet in diameter. Went down, I would say 8 or 9 feet into the ground. And I was just like, what the heck is this? And he said, this is a Yanagloshi hole. So Yanagloshi holes and tunnels are something they use to be able to traverse the land while being unseen. Sometimes to get into homesteads, they would carve out and dig these tunnels maybe straight up to your floorboards, or even some way to sneak by without anybody noticing. So in those stories, the holes, when they're active, they're only about like that big. So when a Yanagloshi were to come up to one of these entrances, he would sing a song, say a phrase, or give an offering of something, of flesh, of something death, maybe a little bone, or some form of verification to be able to grant access into the tunnels like this. Kind of like a ID card or something like that, but they don't use those things. So then the hole would open up and they would just hop in there. Then when they get in there, the hole would kind of close up. So when you're inside these tunnels is a lot bigger than what it actually seems on the inside. And a lot of times the Yanagloshis would use these tunnels for their trainings or indoctrinations of young orphan children that they would steal, or new trainees. They would go in there to just try to just destroy the mind, interrogations, or all these other evil purposes that are happening inside those tunnels. And so with that backstory, going back to here, I remember my brother telling me these stories, and he told me, he was just like, this is your first mission. Now you're going to have to go inside that tunnel. I was like, really? It's like, but, kind of really hesitant to go in there. He's just like, it's your first mission, go in there. So he said, before you go in there, though, your sword is too big to be able to be used inside the tunnels. You have to go in with your knives. So one thing you always do, leave your sword at the entrance of the cave to mark, as a marking to show your other squad mates if you have reinforcements or you have friends come about. They're trying to find you. They'll know which tunnel you went into, and they can follow suit from there. So from there, I put my sword down and I hopped in there, and I would have to say I'm a pretty big dude. I'm 6 something. I'm 6 at the time. I probably would have been 6'1" maybe. But when I went in there, the tunnel entrance above was actually a couple feet above me. So I looked inside of there, and it looked like the tunnel went up into the mountain, but it was collapsed. It was caved off a few feet in. So my brother and my uncle pulled me back out, and we followed where the tunnel went and where the tunnel followed. So we kept walking 30 feet down the line. You see another hole right there. And then we go another 10 feet, 20 feet. There's another giant hole that's right there. And these holes went all the way up into the mountain right next to where the homestead was. And up at the top of the homestead, that's where the tunnels ended. So right here is one of the bigger ones right here. All those other ones that we had just lead up that way. These ones continue up this way. That you're wearing the whole network. Story of the twins and stuff. That's where the tunnels ended. And when you look at the ending of the tunnels, you see a bunch of burnt trees around, like they were all hit with lightning. Now, something my brother told me was, this tunnel that's right here is an old tunnel that the Yanagloshis used to use a long time ago. But now it's abandoned. It was chased out. And in the story, he told me that good and evil were at odds with each other spiritually a while ago. And that was a site of one of the battles that happened there, was when good went into the tunnels and chased out the skinwalkers. But the good spirits that were there had help from the thunder beings. Thunder beings were tossing down lightning bolts at them, making the tunnels collapse. So it was kind of a collapse that chased the skinwalkers out of the tunnel, driving them to the mountain to where the thunder beings had a good clear shot of the skinwalkers right there. So when they went up to the top of the mountain, they just let loose their lightning bolts and just lit them up. And unfortunately, some of the trees were hit during the scuffle, during the battle, and we were actually able to find some of their old relic weapons there. And When spiritual objects cross over into the physical world, what we've come to find out is they turn to stone. Some of their bone daggers or bone knives that they had turned into stone. And it looked pretty trippy to be able to see like a stone carved out into a knife, but it still had like some of the bone fragments on there. It was very wild. But with this story, it was really interesting to see that a lot of our creation stories that we have and a lot of our other stories that we grew up on, you can go to these sites on where these battles happened. You can go to where the monsters ran around and carved out the land from their massive scale battles that they used to have a long time ago. And that's something that I really feel is very interesting, is because, you know, you can walk on history and you can see where all this stuff came from. So this right here is another story, one of the many stories that I had of interacting with, you know, the darker beings, or seeing like the aftermath of where they come from, how they get about and everything. So this is just one story that I have of skinwalker interactions in my times. This is the very first one I've actually ever had, and there's many more to come, many other stories that I have from my interactions and my adventures with my brother as well. And so just be careful out there, everybody, especially for those of you on the reservations out there. You know, be careful of tunnels, be careful of dark holes that you see out there, and, you know, don't be going jumping in them if you see one open up or not. Definitely a lot of creepy things in there, and, you know, just stay safe out there, everybody. And always beware. Don't be mentioning the Anagloshi unless you know how to handle them. Oh, no, go on it. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. See you later, everybody.
Okay. Yeah. What a great channel, huh? What a great channel. So both of those channels are linked in the description right up at the top. And that's going to do it for me today. I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely learned a lot about these things. And like, if anyone talks about a skinwalker that's not on a Navajo reservation or Navajo land, then it's not a skinwalker. They're only from the Navajo. Very interesting, I think. Thank you so much, Abriana, for suggesting it. And here is the poll. Do you think most Muslims are terrorists? Please go ahead and vote on that. There's one interesting comment, and, you know, you don't have to leave a comment. Just it is an anonymous poll. So you will see that people are voting yes, and I expected that. I do expect that. So, yeah, everyone, thank you so much for joining. And yeah, I definitely like to see it from, you know, spoken about from the Navajo themselves, rather than people who have heard, you know, third-hand stories. So, yeah. So I'll be back if Chantal goes live, of course. Crisco, pause on Crisco Windows. Thank you so much for gifting an Are You Serious membership. Thank you. Yes, and Sweet Sea Monster received that membership. Thank you so much. Pause on Crisco Windows. Always so generous. Thank you. Thank you. All right, everybody. I hope to see you very soon. And have a good rest of your day, okay? Surround yourself with some white light. Whatever you do to build yourself up and make yourself feel protected and well, do some of that. Okay, everyone. Thank you again, and I'll see you soon. Okay, bye-bye.